This is the Biz News Podcast, one-on-one conversations with experts in business and personal development.
When a light burns out in your swimming pool, replacing it is usually a job for the pool guy, and that is when you can reach him. Veteran businessman Pete Wasmer was faced with that problem, and while he eventually reached the pool maintenance company, the hassle that was involved led him to develop unique software that's now being used by many service companies, not just the pool industry. Pete Wasmer talks about his software and being an entrepreneur in this edition of Bizgnus Interviews. We always like to start these off by the guest telling our viewers and listeners a little bit about themselves. So, if you would, have at it.
Well, thanks very much, Doug. Peter Wasmer, and I'm founder of ProValet.io. I grew up in the Northeast in Connecticut, and to a great set of parents. My dad was an entrepreneur and had his own companies growing up in life. And in fact, I joined him in one of his equipment leasing ventures and spent about 16 years cutting my teeth learning about larger corporate business and finance, working with him in that company. We eventually sold the business back in the late 2000s. And in 2010, we were living in Connecticut at the time. I was approached by a couple of investment bankers to start another company, another leasing company. And this time we were going to focus on Harley-Davidsons. So yeah, I know it's a little bit odd. People think when they hear that, they think, well, that's interesting. You mean a rental business? And I said, no, we actually put together a full automotive leasing program for Harley-Davidsons, 2, 3, and 4 years. And we focused on pre-owned Harley-Davidsons, predominantly because they just have a tremendous value and they hold their value. And as an asset to lease, it became inexpensive for the rider and eminently easy for a dealer to talk about how this would benefit the rider, in that most people have a bike for 2, 3, or 4 years, and then they're looking to change up to another bike. So it was an easy way to do upgrades. And because of a lease, we were also able to move down in the credit spectrum where many finance companies would not be willing to go. So that was a great run. We really enjoyed that. That was a company called Chrome Capital. That morphed into another leasing company. And we focused, in this case, we didn't focus exclusively on Harley-Davidsons. We moved into every power sport. So we had everything from Indians to Ducatis to 4x4s, dirt bikes. It didn't really matter. If it was in power sports, we had a lease program we could help you with. So that worked really well. That company has been merged with another auto finance company, and so a larger platform overall. So that's a little bit of the career, and then we moved into now taking some of the things that we learned in building those businesses. One of the things I took away from the equipment leasing business was it's terribly difficult to manage 3, 4, and 5 systems into which you have to put the same data. And so we were very much dinosaurs managing, $600-700 million portfolio with 4 or 5 different systems into which you had to input the same information, and terribly difficult for them to talk together. So when it came to putting the Harley leasing program together at Chrome Capital, we focused on creating a single system where data was input one time. It created all the documents that you needed. It stored the data where you wanted it. It created an automatic payment platform for people to remit payments. And then also likewise to pay the dealers how much, when we were buying the bikes, we needed to pay them. So it was all interconnected, and it happened one time inside of one system. So that was we cut a lot of teeth doing that.
Blood on the floor, so to speak.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Now, what is it that you're doing now? You're working on something that's more aimed at small business, I understand.
Yeah. So the finance program we put together for power sports dealers was foundational for really understanding how small businesses operate and what's important to them. So I had an experience in 2019, and I said, there's got to be a better way for this to work. And it was an experience with the team that manages taking care of our pool. And I just happened to notice that the light was out one night, and I'm out in the dark, and I'm looking around for the phone number. I finally find the guy's phone number, and I call him up, and you have to go through a whole menu of selections on what you want to choose, and you finally choose it, and you leave a voicemail, and I never heard anything back.
That was a very clever phone tree he had.
It worked very well, and it's not unusual that this is the case, I'm finding. So I figured there's got to be a better way. It did ultimately get fixed. Nobody ever called me or told me. I just simply 3 or 4 weeks later noticed that it was on, and the next day I went to the mailbox and there was the bill. So I was like, I thought, wait, there might be a different way of managing this. I had actually started Pro Valet as a platform to help launch boats. One of my pastimes, my vice, if you will, in life is boating. And I have a boat. It sits in a dry rack, and you pick up the phone and call, and you tell them to put it in, and it's a very, very easy way to go boating. And I thought, well, there's got to be a better way to, maybe we can schedule this and what have you. And there'd be a connection between me and the office and the forklift drivers. And there'd be this cool 3-way communication platform. And I went to develop that. And when I looked at the price tag, I thought, well, that's going to be a little expensive for just simply overriding a phone call. But I said, it's kind of a cool platform. Let me talk to a couple of people. And I talked to my pool guys about it after that experience. And I said, what do you think about this 3-way communication platform? They said, that's a really good idea. And they were very helpful in getting sort of the foundation of what needed to happen in place. And so we went to build it. And we're the only field service software out there that actually includes the customer. So I say only in that nobody else has a mobile app that the customers can use to have what I call an Uber-like experience. So with Pro Valet, when your service companies have Pro Valet and they check into your job, you actually get a little Uber notification. Maybe you're at the office, maybe you're on vacation, but you know that your people are there. You get a little notification when they start, another one when they're done. You can open the app and review a full report on the app. You can rate the service. You can pay for the service. But the one key that people are really gravitating to is this concept of a service request. So in the same way that I had a service request when I was at my home and my light bulb was out, instead of me fishing through and finding the telephone number and leaving a voicemail and hoping that something happens, we've created an interconnected real-time response. So I'll now open up my app and I can click on service request. I can type up what I want, and then I can actually take a video. I can show that. And when I hit submit, that now lands on my vendor's dashboard for him to execute as a job to be scheduled in the future. And when he does it, I get an automatic notification telling me when that happened. So all of these very simple communication features that are important for a relationship and for a service company to drive relationships and to keep relationships have been built in automatically. So, I guess my philosophy is if you can think about it, you can build it. And what we've received is market feedback that is really advocating for our platform on a multiple of different multiple of different industries.
It sounds like it could be applied to any service business out there, whether it's the pool guys, the gardening guys, or whatever it might be.
Yeah, 100%. We've signed up companies that are pool service was the first one to go after, but we built it agnostically, meaning it accounts for the nuances of a pool company. But if you don't need those nuances because of the modules and the way we built the services, you don't need to worry about that. If you're a lawn care company, it works perfectly well. If what else? Home cleaning, home watch. We've had car detail guys take us up on it. People who have run pressure washing businesses, anything. We're really dynamically focused on the recurring service provider, and I differentiate what the people that we help in one of two ways. Service companies, in my book, are in one of two camps. Either you're an appointment driven business like a HVAC or an electric company, or an electrician or a plumber, versus pool service, lawn care, home cleaning, home watch. These are services that happen on a subscription basis. I pay you a monthly amount, you come and do your service, and life is good. We just need to find out. We just like to keep in touch with what's happening. And every once in a while you have something that comes up, you need a way to communicate with them. It's a very clean way to help the company run their business, potentially keep your rates lower, but also to keep up on things where, you might normally forget to make a phone call or something. So.
Well, you have certainly moved a long ways from leasing major equipment.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so.
Let's look a little bit to the future. A lot of people are talking about robots and artificial intelligence. Seems to be a lot of concern whether that's a good thing, bad thing, or where small businesses might fit into that growing industry. What are your thoughts?
That's a great question. We try to keep ahead of the curve on a lot of the developments that are coming out, and I think AI is interesting where it can serve from the context of Google. If you're looking to search for something and you're not sure about it, you can be relatively assured that at least some of the information that's coming through Google is going to have some relevant answers for you. So in the same way that, I grew up with, in my basement, a full encyclopedia that my parents had, now we have access to it, right here. The world is right here. And so, we've used Chat GPT as an early example for writing emails, for writing letters to people, for crafting even ads. Some of the ads that we're putting out right now, some of the editorial is done by Chat GPT for us, and I find it to be a really engaging way to create the foundation of what you want to say. I don't think that anything that comes out of it is readily publishable. I think you really have to scrutinize what's been put in there, but it gives you the framework for how to for what you want to communicate in a way that is consistent with your tonality. You just have come in a little bit behind it and give it a little oomph to make it yours, but then it's ready to go. I mean, you cannot imagine the amount of time that it saves, and it makes a decision to create a newsletter or an email chain dirt simple, and it happens in a matter of seconds. If you can think it and you can type the prompt, you'll get an answer and you're done. So very good for people like me who suffer from ADHD and sort of shiny penny syndrome, want to chase one thing and get it done and move on. It's very satisfactory that way. There are a number of tools that I've been become acquainted with that can help with any measure. ChatGPT is only one of dozens of AI tools that you can use to help really support your business. I'm not a big fan of artificial intelligence taking over certain thinking jobs. I have a real problem with the future of AI, and it would probably follow along with some of the comments that Elon Musk has made about the dangers of artificial intelligence and where is the limit. And I'm not sure I know the answer to that today, but I can tell you that I would not want to be engaged in a Terminator-like environment where a humanoid had been programmed to respond and interact with the general public, and it was serviceable or it was programmable in a way that would be inconsistent with expectations, and by that I mean in a very negative and or evil fashion. So I had a teacher when I was a kid, Mr. Dick Zimmerman. He was a terrific algebra teacher in, I don't know, 6th, 7th grade, whenever it was that I took algebra. He was very very proud of his HP 12C. It was a new calculator that had come out. I think it was a 12C or maybe it was a 17. I forget. Anyways, he was very proud of it. But he explained, he said, you can use this calculator to send somebody to the moon. He said, but it is only as smart as the guy that programmed it. So when it comes to AI, I think about who's programming it.
Well, as long as humans continue to program it, I guess we'll be safe. Or maybe we won't be safe from the knuckleheads who might be behind some of it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's one of the things we all should be concerned about.
Well, where do you hope to take your business in 5-10 years?
In 5 to 10 years, Pro Valet will be the Shopify of the service world. So if you are a person who wants to open up a retail store online, you have basically two choices. You can open up on Amazon and be subjected to their fees and other management of your business there, which is perfectly fine for a lot of people. But if you're really going to open up and be magnanimous online, you use Shopify. It's a framework to actually build out your retail online presence. It facilitates fulfillment, order fulfillment. It facilitates customer communication. It facilitates all of the attributes you could ever possibly want to have when you're selling something online. And I have friends who use it. It's beautiful. It works really well. And so I look at our business and I see the same thing for any service company, because it is agnostic, because it is easy to use. It's not cluttered with feature bloat. It's very dynamically focused on how does a service business run and how do we automate all of those manual tasks that somebody might have to otherwise perform in order to keep their business going. Invoicing is a great example. People say, oh, I have QuickBooks. I say, yeah, I get that. That's great. But you still have to go into QuickBooks and you still have to feed that information in. And in our tool, you can build a service with a price and it will automatically invoice for you. You don't ever have to worry about it again. It just simply happens. Customer payments. You're not chasing customer payments. With the customer app, assuming that your customers have auto pay turned on, just like Uber, when the service is performed, the invoice goes, it automatically gets paid before your guy leaves the property. We integrate with QuickBooks. So the need to actually go in and reconcile your QuickBooks Online account is now done for you. So tremendous number of features that where we're automating those things that are repeated. And that was one of the things I learned a long time ago, is that if you're going to do the same thing over and over and over again, you ought to automate it. And so that's what we built. And that's why I think that in 5 to 10 years, we'll become the Shopify of the service world.
Very good advice to all small business owners, I would think. Now, we need to provide our listeners and viewers a way to get in touch with you. You probably have a website.
Sure. Yeah, you can go to see our product at provalet.io. And you can get a hold of me by sending me an email at peter@provalet.io.
Peter, would you like to add anything to our conversation that I haven't brought up?
I'm just a really big advocate of small business guys and gals. I mean, you've got to have a great faith to want to be your own person and run your own business. And as a guy that grew up in a family where that was the case, it's been a great model. So I'm a huge fan, and I wish everybody who has a chance to listen to this all the success in the world, and that they continue to do what they love. That's the one thing I find with small business people, is that they have God-given talents, and they get to use them every single day. And I think it's a brilliant way to live your life.
You've been watching the Biz News Podcast. We welcome your input. Send your email to editor@biznews.com. Thanks for watching.